My name is John Bevan. I live in Llanelli, and way back in 1955-6, I started work in the Oldcastle Tin Works. I was in the Merchant Navy when I was younger, and it didn't seem to be a great amount of future in that, so I thought I'm looking for work at home, come home to live with my parents, and I found a job in the white pickling in the Oldcastle Tin Works. I don't know if you know the process, but the billets were quite big lumps of steel, about half an inch thick, by 9 inches by 18 inches, and they're heated up in the furnace. The furnace man, and once they reach a certain heat, the furnace man pulls them out with the tongs from the furnace and throws it across to the roller man, and that's known as the first heat of the process. And the roller picks them up with the tongs and puts them through the rollers, and of course the rollers jump up, bang, bang, it comes down again. Apparently, when all the tin works in the area and also the sheet metal works were working, they started at 6 o'clock in the morning. Right, everybody started at the same time, and I reckon the whole town shook when the first billets went through, bang, bang. It was tremendous. People used to be woken up by it when they go into work in other industries. And from there, then that goes through the rolls to a man operator known as a behinder, and he picks up the thing and puts it over the top of the roll, and the roller man picks it up again and pushes it through the rolls again. And it's slow as it gets thinner and thinner and thinner and wider. It's taken down from the behinder and put over to the doubler. There's a man known as the doubler, and he had a huge boot on. If it's right or left foot, and depending if it's right or left-handed, I suppose. And he would bend it over, grab the sheet with the tongs and bend it over and step on it, and then put it into a press and to press it flat. Of course, it was a certain skill involved to get the edges correct, otherwise it'd spoil the sheet of metal. And that was passed back then to the furnace man, which you put back into the furnace. By the way, the furnace man was known as a second helper to help the furnace man, and he was the one who put the billets into the furnace originally. You see, so the furnace man was rather expert to get the hot ones in one place and the ones that were heating up in another place. He would turn them over the tongs. It was quite fascinating to watch, tremendous skill. Anyway, and then of course that process was continuous until the sheets were at a certain, say maybe 10 or 12 thicknesses, folded over at that process, through the rolls to the behinder, passed back over and so on, and then to the behinder. And then once they were a certain number of sheets together, they were put aside to cool. After a while, they were put back into a furnace and for the annealing process. That was, it was softening the metal. It wasn't supposed to be too tensile, And then once they were cooled, the packs of sheets were passed to mostly ladies known as openers, and they, with a huge machete, separate the sheets. And then they'd go then into the first, I think it was the cold rolls it was known as, or known locally as cold rolls. Shorten the words a bit. Anyway, and they were coated with coconut oil and passed through a set of rolls. They worked at a tremendous speed. It was all like that business, Frequently one accidents where their fingers would be caught in the rolls, crushed. And then they were smooth and shiny and smooth. And they go, I think it was about 3 or 4 different sets of cold rolls until it achieved a certain flexibility and smoothness. And then the packs then were brought by a gantry to the department where I worked, which was the pickling, the black pickling first, and to take most of the oil off, and then the white pickling to make the surfaces, clean the surfaces, so that they would accept the tin plate, you see. And what they mounted was a carousel with cradles on about, I think it was 4 or 6, and the loaders would pick up these packs of, usually by the time they came from the cold rolls, they were about this size. And all the operatives working in the pickling department was piece of inner tube on your hands, no gloves, a piece of inner tube with slits cut in so it went over your wrist, and a leather apron, and you would pick up the packs and carry them over and put it into the cradles, and you wouldn't drop them or you damage the edge, you see, they had to be lowered in gently. And very often these packs of metal, which were by this size, would probably weigh anything up to about 500 pounds in weight, you know. It was a very, very physically demanding job. Obviously, you lost a lot of blood quite frequently, and I got scars to prove it. You know, you might slip. And when you got down to the lower down, the trick was to grab hold of a corner of the pack and pull it over, bend it over, and tuck it into your stomach, and use the flexibility of the thing to lift the sheets up, you know, and then you put them in, and that would, as they go round, as a continuous process, that would go into an acid bath. I think it was hydrochloric, I'm not sure if it was hydrochloric or sulfuric, but it was a mixture of water and acid, which would cleanse the sheets, and then go in, you know, it would go around all the time. Another chap the other side then would be pulling them out of the cradle and putting them into a very a very weak mixture of acid and water, and from there then they'd be taken into the tin house, and they'd go through a drying process with sawdust, and that then would go into the hot dip, as it's known, with a vat of liquid metal, and then the process from there, and they'd be put to cool. There was a method of cooling them, and what they used to get then was known as a drip edge, because obviously when it was hung up to dry, the metal to harden, you'd have a little drip edge on the bottom, and that had to be cut off, because that could be, the tin could be recycled, because it's a very expensive piece, and then from there it was packed and shipped out, and that basically was the process.